Hey, Heather, can you hear me?
I can hear you, President Brown.
Thank you. I can hear you as well. Heather, can you
Commission.
hear me? Are you getting the only thing I'm seeing is myself on this, Vice President Fielder.
Um, there should be a view button in your upper right-hand corner that will change what you see on your screen.
Hmm.
In the upper right-hand corner of the Zoom
Oh, yes. There
box.
you go. Yep. Thank you.
hmm Commissioner Bukacek, can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us?
Commissioner Pinocci, can you hear us?
Okay, we can't hear you guys on the microphone, so give us a thumbs up if you're trying to tell us you can hear us. Thank you. Your microphones aren't live yet.
This is Tony. I'm on also. Oh, pardon me.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can. All right, Philip, are we good to go? Philip, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, are we good to go?
Yes, we should be good to go, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right, good morning, everybody. Time is now 9:31 a.m. Today's date is Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. This is the time and place for our regularly scheduled business meeting. We are here at the Commission in the Bollinger Conference Room. I'll call this meeting to order. Would my colleagues join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
United
of
States of
America
America,
and to the republic
to the
for which it
Republic,
stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, colleagues. All right. I would note for the record that Commissioner Pinocci and Commissioner Bukacek are present in the Bollinger Room. Myself, Vice President Fielder, and Commissioner O'Donnell are participating via Zoom, so we do have quorum this morning. All right, this is the time and place for public comment. The Montana Public Service Commission welcomes public comment on any matter that is on today's agenda or on any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the Montana Public Service Commission. Are there any public commenters in the room? If so, please move forward to the front desk and identify yourself, and please state and spell your name for the record. Are there any public commenters in the room? Any public commenters in the room? Seeing none, are there any public commenters online? Philip, do we have any public commenters online?
There are no public commenters online.
Okay. Seeing no public comment this morning, let's move forward. There are no changes to the agenda this morning, so let's roll right into our action items. Approval Action items are, number one is the approval of the commission minutes for the week of March 25th, 2024. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I will move adoption of the minutes.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Commissioner O'Donnell seconded, so we have a motion and second. Discussion, revisions, changes to the draft minutes for the week of March 25th, 2024. Seeing none, all those in favor of Vice President Fielder's motion to adopt the draft minutes for the week of March 25th, 2024 as written, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries, minutes are adopted. All right, let's move into our work session items. Work session item number one is docket 2024.03.028. This is MEIC et al. This is the petition for adoption of new rule and declarations pertaining to commission's consideration of the adverse climate impacts of greenhouse gas emissions. The commission is here to consider issuing written questions from the commission and to extend the deadline for public comment. All right, who's presenting this morning? Is that Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, Mr. President, I'll be presenting.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
All right. Good morning, commissioners. As President Brown just noted, this work session concerns a petition for rulemaking filed by approximately 40 petitioners who have asked the commission to adopt a new rule concerning the consideration of environmental impacts in every case that comes before the commission. You recall that we held a hearing on this matter on April 8th, at which the petitioners presented their proposal and the commission heard from proponents and opponents alike. The commission also set an April 12th deadline for written comment. And although we are past that deadline, commenters continue to share their views and opinions with the commission. In the interest of maximizing opportunity for public input, the commission did not ask questions at the April 8th hearing. And while we have received extensive public comment, relatively few commenters have addressed the particular language of the proposed rule and how it would work in practice. Those that have addressed the particular language of the rule seem to have different interpretations about what the rule would actually mean. For example, in the petition, petitioners have argued that, quote, "It is well settled that the environmental protections of Montana's Constitution compel state agencies to take action to realize those protections. To that end, the proposed rule appears to require the commission to make specific determinations about when costs are reasonable, just, prudent, in the public interest, and otherwise approvable, based on the proposed social cost of greenhouse gas. In their written comments, however, the petitioners take the position that the consideration of the social cost of greenhouse gas is not outcome determinative. In other words, that it doesn't require the commission to make any particular decisions in the contested cases that come before it. Rather, the petitioners assert that the proposed rule is merely intended to avoid uninformed decisions. The petitioner's comments and the proposed rule, therefore, appear to be in conflict. It is possible that staff is misunderstanding how the petitioners intended the proposed rule would function, not only in this respect, but in a variety of case-specific applications. To ensure that the commission has a complete record and explanation of the practical implications of the rule, including an understanding of how petitioners envision the proposed rule working, staff has prepared written questions listed in the draft notice. Although those questions are directed to the petitioners, who may have the most insight about their proposed rule, we believe that in fairness, all interested parties should be invited to comment. For that reason, we also recommend extending the period for all types of public comment for interested parties. Ultimately, staff recommends that the commission approve the draft notice and authorize staff to make non-substantive changes. And at this point, I would be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Mr. Hamilton? Hello? Mr. Hamilton?
Yes, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. It was raised during the hearing, I believe, that it is within the what the petitioners are asking is in the purview, not of the PSC, but of the legislature. Could you please address your understanding of that argument?
Yes, Mr. President and Commissioner O'Donnell, the Montana constitutional provisions at play here do direct the Montana legislature to take action in order to provide a clean and healthful environment and to improve the condition of the environment. So it is, in the first instance, a legislative obligation.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move. We'll go back to regular order here. So I'm going to move that the commission approve the draft notice of extended opportunity to comment as the commission's notice of extended opportunity to comment, and to authorize staff to make non-substantive changes as necessary. I will have an amendment to this if this is seconded. Is there a second?
I'll second.
That was Commissioner Pinocchio, I believe. So we have a motion and second. Discussion.
Mr. President,
Commissioner Pinocchio.
I've been getting phone calls for the last couple of days, and this morning, starting at 6 a.m., all the way till I walked in this room. So I certainly support more time. And I'm very excited about the amount of people calling, especially those that are elected officials. So I would ask, Mr. President, that we gather more information and give people time to react to, a healthy debate. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Pinocchio. Additional discussion? Well, I will.
Mr. President.
Commissioner.
Hold on. I'm going to
Move to. Go ahead.
I'm going to move to amend my motion. So, colleagues, presently the draft order extends the comment deadline to May 24th, 2024. I'm going to move that deadline to July 1st, 2024 to give that will be my motion, is to amend the draft order to move the comment deadline from May 24th, 2024 to July 1st, 2024. Is there a second?
I'll second your motion, Mr.
Mr.
President.
Okay.
All right, Vice President Fielder has seconded. We have motion and second. I'll speak to my own motion. I think Commissioner Pinocchio just hit on the nub of this in his comments is the fact that there is high public interest in this matter. I know my colleagues have been receiving the same phone calls that I have. Certainly, people asking for additional time to provide public comment on this. This is a matter that is of high public interest, to say the least. As noted by Mr. Hamilton during his presentation on this, and also as noted in the draft, we have considered the petition in one form by authorizing a public hearing on this, and then authorizing an initial public comment period. As stated by Mr. Hamilton, I think that we have found that there are many unanswered questions about this proposed rule, one of which, of course, is the assertion that, or the question that was brought by Commissioner O'Donnell as to what legal authority we would have to adopt this proposed rule, and setting that aside, how this rule would actually work in practice if adopted. We certainly heard the presentation from the petitioners in this matter. That presentation left many questions unanswered, not only in terms of substance of how the rule would operate, but also our authority to act on the proposed rule as proposed. I think it is advisable for us, given the high public interest in this, to reopen the public comment period, to allow our staff and the commissioners to ask questions, which we were unable to do during the public hearing in this matter. And so in the interest of Article 2, Section 9, I believe, which is the right to participate, clause of the Montana Constitution. I asked my colleagues to join me in extending the public comment deadline from the current date in the order to July 1st, 2024. Additional discussion?
Yes,
Is that Commissioner Bukacek?
it is. Thank you,
All right.
sir. I will be a no vote for both the amendment and the initial motion to approve, and I have some prepared brief comments that would be the same for both the amendment. My first duty as a commissioner is to my constituents. One of my campaign pledges in 2022 is that I would keep the public informed of PSC issues pertinent to their well-being. In keeping with that pledge, I encouraged people to listen to the April 4th hearing, and I provided a summary of the main arguments in opposition to the climate change petition heard that day. Arguments compelling and credible for a no vote on anything that carries forward the climate change petition. I provided a copy of the summary to my colleagues and will not belabor all points. However, I have three. One, it is not within the jurisdiction of the PSC to take on being environmental regulators. The legislative branch has given us economic regulatory authority, not environmental regulatory authority. Number two, the social cost of greenhouse gases metric is at a minimum controversial and therefore has no place in PSC decisions, as we are to be objective arbiters. Point three, the social cost to Montanans of the implications of this petition would be enormous. And I'll elaborate briefly on these 3 points. Point number one, the Montana legislature created the PSC, and the PSC is dependent on the legislature for funding and jurisdiction. Furthermore, to reiterate what Lucas Hamilton said, Article 9, Section 1 of the Montana Constitution states that it is the legislature that provides, and I'm quoting the Constitution here, the legislature provides adequate remedies for the protection of the environmental life support system from degradation and provide adequate remedies to prevent unreasonable depletion and degradation of natural resources, end of quote. We got an email this morning from Montana Representative Steve Gunderson, who is chair of the Natural Resources Committee and Environmental Quality Council. He states, and I quote, "The petitioners are attempting to force commission to do something that is entirely illegal. This power remains in the hands of the legislative branch to make/change laws to allow this and to pass laws to bestow additional powers onto the PSC and any agency within the administration," end of quote. I so appreciate this clarifying letter from Chairman Gunderson. It would be illegal and in contempt of the legislature for the Public Service Commission to take on this role via a change in administrative rules. Chairman Gunderson goes on to point out that, and I'm quoting him here, the petitioners are using the assumption that the held decision is final, but it is under appeal to a higher court, so continues to be unsettled until adjudicated by a much higher court, end of quote. Montanans understand the substantive reasons that Held versus Montana has been challenged. In the 36 or so hours prior to this business meeting, we received multiple emails from Montanans in strong opposition. I stopped counting at 65 emails that we got in the last 36, maybe 40 hours at the most, period, in opposition to this petition. 0 commenters supporting the petition in that same time frame. Point number two, the climate change petition makes much of the so-called social cost of greenhouse gases metric, referred to by the acronym SCGH. Multiple testimonies, April 8th, countered this metric, calling it, quote, fatally flawed, illegitimate, end of quote. The SCGH metric must be considered at a minimal, quote, controversial, end of quote, as it was described by the Director of Energy and Environmental Policy Studies at the Cato Institute. Point number three, and what about the social cost of ruling positively on this petition? Montana is a working man's state. I talked to Jason Small last Friday. Jason Small is a member of the Cheyenne Nation. He's a former legislator, boilermaker, and current head of the Montana AFL-CIO. Jason Small is adamantly opposed to this petition going forward. He sent a representative of the Montana AFL-CIO to testify at the hearing April 8th about the harm to the workers and their families represented by these unions. The representative, she spoke of, quote, massive loss of jobs, end of quote, and the social and tax ramifications, tax-based ramifications of what that unemployment would occur. Other unions of trades and representatives of irrigators spoke in opposition, and it's not just union workers that would be harmed. a nonprofit organization from southeastern Montana that promotes economic growth, strongly opposed this petition. Multiple public commenters spoke of the rise in power bills that will occur. And those currently working, what about 5 to 10 years from now when they retire, most of them on a fixed income? Maybe they have a small company pension or a 401k, retirement with no cost of living increase. What about those Montanans? With the increased cost of groceries, rent, insurance, and other items associated with inflation and economic uncertainty, how will these folks be able to afford the increased utility bills that would inevitably occur if this petition is put forth? Our job is to hear both sides and weigh in. After attending a full day hearing, taking copious notes, listening again to the recording of the hearing, reading every email from both sides, there are no additional questions for the petitioners that would be reasonable. What are we going to ask? The petitioners to clarify their use of SCGH metric, the metric Tanner Avery called, quote, a metric highly controversial and easy to manipulate, end of quote. That quote comes from Tanner Avery of Bozeman, who is the director of New Frontiers, Montana branch of the Frontier Institute. I have multiple scholarly articles here regarding the questionable validity. And I have last I counted, it was over 65 of these emails that we got within the last 36 to 40 hours from Montanans. I am confident we commissioners have more than adequate information to vote no on this petition going forward and to vote no on the amendment. No extension of the deadline, no written questions to the petitioners. I will close this statement by a statement by the executive director of Southeastern Montana Development Corporation in opposition to our going further with this petition. I asked the PSC to, quote, build up the Montana economy and not move forward with a regressive carbon tax on utilities, end of quote. A tax that will no doubt cause power bills and unemployment to soar. I ask my colleagues, please do not sell out hardworking, earnest Montanans. Join me in voting no today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bukacek. And I'm just going to reserve back my time to speak on this. Mr. Hamilton, question for you.
Yes.
Are we in any way considering today the substance of the petition that has been filed as is being alleged by Commissioner Bukacek?
Mr. President, I would say that the commission is considering asking questions about the substance of the petition. I would not say that the commission is moving forward with formal rulemaking. For example, a notice of proposed new rule to be published with the Montana Secretary of State's office.
And so if the commission votes today to ask additional questions, are we adopting the proposed rule as Commissioner Bukacek asserts?
Mr. President, you would not be adopting the proposed rule.
Okay. And what would be, for Commissioner Bukacek and the public's awareness, what would be the process that we would use to adopt this rule if we were considering doing so?
Mr. President, to begin the formal rulemaking process, the commission would need to vote on a notice of proposed adoption of a new rule. That notice would have to contain not only the content of the proposed rule, but also the statement of reasonable necessity. For a rule like this, I would also recommend that the commission contemplate having a hearing on the proposed rule. So it would also schedule a time and place for a hearing and a deadline for the submission of comments to the commission about that notice of proposed rulemaking. After proceeding through the hearing and comment period, if the commission were to decide to adopt the rule, which again would be a separate step that would require a second notice to be voted on by the commission would have to draft that notice and include in the notice a summary of all public comments received and responses to those public comments, including any amendments to the rule language as proposed that may be required in order to address those public comments. And only then after the adoption of that second notice, the notice of adoption, would the rule become effective. But bear in mind that while that process is proceeding, the legislature also has an opportunity to review and weigh in on the rule through the interim committee process, in particular the ETIC committee for the commission.
So Mr. Hamilton, I misstated the proper clause of the Montana Constitution to which I was referring, and to my colleagues in the public, I apologize for that. Of course, what I was referring to is Article 2, Section 8 of the Montana Constitution, which is the right given to the public to participate in final decisions of governmental agencies such as this. So keeping that constitutional provision in mind, Mr. Hamilton, if we were to either vote to reject the proposed rule or to adopt a decision to move forward with formal rulemaking, that would, as I understand it, require us to properly notice the action that was to be taken and to allow further public comment on that as well, correct?
Mr. President and Commissioners, yes, I would agree that before the commission takes a specific action, there is an obligation to publish an agenda with a description of the action that the commission intends to take to provide a meaningful opportunity for public comment and participation.
So to reiterate, we are not taking any final action today on either accepting the proposed rule or rejecting it, correct?
Mr. President, correct. The agenda as published described the purpose of today's work session, the consideration of additional written questions, and extension of the public comment period.
Okay, and then to Commissioner Bukacek's point about the public comment that has come in the last 72 hours, with which Commissioner Pinocci noted is occurring. Is that public comment part of the record that is being built for our decision making in this?
Mr. President, it is after the deadline for written comment. And so typically how our agency at least would handle late submitted comment is that they would not be part of the record that we respond to in making the decision. For example, if we were in a formal rulemaking process and comments were received afterwards, they would not necessarily be summarized and responded to in the formal notice of adoption. That's, of course, again, an entirely different scenario than what we are dealing with today. I would say that the commission always retains the discretion to expand the scope of its previously set deadline of April 12th and to accept additional public comment that was filed after the fact.
Okay, and if we were to take action to extend the public comment period, which is before us, which is the action before us today, we would be able to accept that public comment and consider it as part of our decision making, correct?
Mr. President, Commissioners, yes, I would agree with that interpretation.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. I'll just speak to my motion again to amend my underlying motion, which is the current motion is to extend the public comment deadline to July 1st. So that is the motion before us. I think Commissioner Bukacek's comments actually supported my motion to allow for additional public comment and to extend the deadline for that so that people can exercise their constitutional right to weigh in on this weighty matter.
With all due respect, Mr. President, I raised my hand 3 times and you have not called upon me before we vote.
That's because we have the floor.
So I get an opportunity to speak to how you are incorrect and have misrepresented my assertions, sir?
Commissioner Bukacek, I'm happy to call on you at this point.
Oh, I appreciate it. Okay. So with all due respect, to Mr. President, he is incorrect and has mischaracterized my assertions. I did not state that going forward means that we have adopted anything. What I said, and I will give you a copy, I will give a copy to each of the commissioners what I have said. The SCGH metric must be considered at a minimum controversial, as it was described by the Director of Energy and Environmental Policies at the Cato Institute. The social cost of greenhouse gas metric is at a minimal controversial and therefore has no place in PSC decisions. And I think the final thing I said is I'm confident we commissioners, this is prior to the 65 plus commenters that said vote no. Even without those 65 commenters saying vote no, we have more than enough, more than adequate information to vote no on this petition going forward.
All right, Vice President Fielder.
Thank you, Mr. President. To your motion regarding changing the comment deadline, I appreciate that. I chaired the hearing, as you know, on April 8th, and we had another 4 or 5 days after the hearing to accept public comment in the record on this. And obviously, due to the high public interest, that has not been sufficient. So I'm going to support your motion to extend the deadline to allow comment to be submitted. I think that all these people that have been commenting would appreciate making sure that their comments are in the record. And because several of those comments were directed to individual commissioners rather than our public comment process, which is identified in the record for this proceeding, we've got some time lags now between getting comments into the actual record, public record, and gathering those from our individual email accounts. I've been trying to forward them to the PSC help email address so that staff can process them. Which goes to another question that I have, and this is also related to your motion on extending the time frame. There has been some lag, significant lag between the time at which a comment is submitted and the time in which it is entered into the READY system and then provided to the commissioners and the staff for review. And so if we go ahead and approve your motion to extend the comment period to July 1, will we be able to have sufficient time after that for staff and for READY to process all of the comments received before the commission is expected to take action on this matter?
I'll speak to that, Vice President Fielder. Certainly, that would be how I would contemplate the process working in order to effectuate, excuse me, Article 2, Section 8 of the Montana Constitution, which of course allows or gives the right, obviously, to the public to have their comments considered, submitted, and weighed as part of any of the decision-making process.
Okay, so I appreciate that, and I think that it's important for our colleagues and the public to understand that the proper place to direct public comment is written in this notice of extension, and the email address is pschelp@mt.gov and not individual commissioner accounts. That is an improper place for our colleagues or our staff to advise people to send their comments. Let's make sure that we're getting the comments in through the proper channels, and then we have adequate time for those to be processed before we have to bring this up again. I would appreciate that very much because, frankly, the constant barrage of email notifications popping up on my screen while I'm trying to manage multiple different projects and dockets for the agency has been rather disruptive to the work environment. So ask our commission colleagues and the public to assist us and be able to perform our work in an orderly process by using the proper channels to submit public comments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Vice President Fielder. That is a very good point. So we are a state agency collectively, and we do make decisions collectively, and it is proper for public comment to come through the public process through the agency contact. Certainly, the proper channel is not to have direct members of the public to contact individuals, commissioners, directly in order to influence votes. It looks like Commissioner Bukacek may have raised her hand.
I have a comment to both what first what Vice President Fielder said. The agenda of this business meeting was posted on Friday. There was no time to get anything through the PSC helpline, and people that had made comments previously, they know that it could take 5 days, it could take 2 weeks, and the other thing is, I mean, my first duty as a commissioner is to my constituents, so I would never consider their comments to be disruptive to my day. Now, to address President Brown, many, if not most, of the substantive no comments that we've gotten in the last 36 to 40 hours were previously submitted. So they are already part of the public record. And so I think that I would say that we have adequate information. And I would also say that I would also ask my colleagues again, please do not sell out hardworking, earnest Montanans by pushing this forward. Vote no.
Additional comment, looks like Commissioner Pinochi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Montanans, in my experience, react slowly to public comment, usually because they don't hear about what's going on in a timely fashion. So when a constituent reaches out and asks what's going on, I encourage them to make public comment, try to get them information so that they understand what's happening. And this is not uncommon. This is going to happen on the next big issue. To extend public comment, because I have elected officials and normal, everyday working class people asking what's going on, is not a support or denial of this issue. It's simply to say, let's have the opportunity for the public to get more involved. I'm going to tell all of you, this is going to happen every time there's a hot button issue in front of us. All right. And to allow more public comment is in no way in support or to deny what's in front of us. It's to react to the public contacting us. And I've been contacted all morning long by farmers and elected officials and probably people in my district. I think I've got 1 or 2 out of my district asking what's going on. So I think this is a very good answer. So I support what we're doing to extend this, but I do not like being put in the position that somehow I'm doing something wrong in support or to deny this motion. All right. The other thing I'm disappointed with, the public who's very concerned about this made no public comment today. I want to encourage you, if you're going to ask what's going on and you're concerned about the issue, this room should be full of people concerned, and I'm not seeing any public comment today. So I want to remind everybody, this government is your government. You get the government you deserve. Please get more involved, and I'm hoping to see a more public comment in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Additional discussion, and remember, we are on the motion to amend to change the date to July 1st for the end of public comment. Vice President Fielder. Vice President Fielder.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to pass. I was going to go off on a tangent. I think we need to stick with the motion at hand here. So I will refrain from commenting further.
All right, Commissioner Bukacek, can you keep your comments to the extension of
Yes.
the date, please?
Yes, and it's pertinent to both. I stopped counting at 65 plus no comments in the last 36 to 40 hours, and pertaining to what Commissioner Pinochi said about the public not being involved. You know, when you think about, I mean, supposedly when we receive a letter or an email, you can, and it's especially if it's an original, you can multiply that by 100, the number of people that are actually engaged, because most people don't get involved. So I disagree that the public is not aware of this. I think they are very aware of it. I'm for more public awareness, but it does not need to go through this channel. This is the wrong way to go. Thank you.
All right, additional discussion on the amendment to change the date by which the next round of public comment would need to be submitted. Seeing none.
Mr. President.
All those. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Mr. President. Thank you.
Yeah.
The reason for my delay was I was trying to decide if it was appropriate at this time or on the main motion, but it's probably appropriate now. Let me say that I agree wholeheartedly with the 3 points that Commissioner Bukacek raised in the beginning. I think the petition fails on 2 very strong points. And number 1 is that, as I clarified with Mr. Hamilton, Section 9, or Article 9, Section 1 of the Montana Constitution, I thank the petitioners for drawing my attention to that.
Point of order, Mr. President.
That,
point of order. Can we please stick to the amendment, which is the change of date? I think we've gone way far afield on substance, and I'd like to have us stick to the actual amendment, which is a change of date for comment.
Thank you, and I am.
Go ahead. But I agree with Vice President Fielder. We are on an amendment to change the date, but
I do too.
Please proceed.
I do too. Okay. So I think it fails on that regard, that it is the province of the legislature, and I believe it fails on one other aspect, and that is that the petitioners are asking us to consider the social cost of carbon, but have made a tremendous mistake by not allowing us or directing us to consider the social benefits of carbon. We are not an advocacy agency. We are an adjudicatory agency. We need to have all of the evidence and the questions raised by the province of the legislature and of the nature of their petition. I think it really does. I'm not confused by it. I'm concerned that we don't have enough information. We commissioners have not given the petitioners enough of an opportunity to clarify their responses. And I think that proper procedure should allow that to happen. I agree that if we are going to let that happen, that July 1st is an appropriate date. So I support the motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Additional comment? Commissioner Bukacek, please keep it to the July 1st date, please.
Well, they're both directly connected. So we're asking, I mean, to address what Commissioner O'Donnell said, we're asking the petitioners to clarify in large part a metric that is controversial and that many say is fatally flawed. So what is there to clarify? Nothing. I say again, I'm confident we commissioners have more than adequate information to vote no on this petition going forward.
Okay. All right. Any additional discussion on amending the order to the July 1st date? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor of my amendment to amend the draft order to change the date for the deadline for submitting to commission comments from May 24th, 2024, as currently written, to July 1st, 2024, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
All right. Motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Bukacek dissenting. So we're back to the underlying motion as once amended. So this motion would be to issue the orders extending the opportunity to comment and to have the staff issue the questions as detailed. Again, I will speak in favor of my motion, particularly as amended. All that we're doing today is voting on whether or not to give ourselves and the commission the opportunity to ask additional questions of the petitioners in this matter as to the lawfulness of what they're asking us to do, seeking clarification as to how they envision their proposed rule actually working in practice, giving the public the extended opportunity to provide meaningful comment on this issue of great public interest. All these things, if we move forward, will allow us to better build the record for our ultimate decision in this matter. And again, I would reiterate for the public, despite as what has been averred outside of the public process, this is not a decision on whether or not we're going to approve the rulemaking as proposed or to deny it. It's limited to what has been publicly noticed, which is to seek more public comment and to get better clarification of what this rule actually seeks to do. So I think this is in keeping with our duties as elected officials under Article 2, Section 8 of the Montana Constitution, which is to afford the right to participate to the maximum extent to the public before we make a final decision on any matter. Additional discussion. Mr. Bukacek.
I'll be brief. Duly noted as to the amendment and to what we're doing going forward, Mr. President, we have all the clarification we need.
Additional discussion.
Mr. President.
Vice President Fielder, and forgive me
Thank-
for my froggy throat.
Yes, of course. Yes, let's just be certain that we allow adequate time for comments to be processed through our ready system so nobody feels like they need to usurp that process and direct comments to individual commissioner email accounts. I would ask my colleagues to refrain from directing their constituents to use that method. And I do appreciate the my colleagues' concern, or that Commissioner Bukacek's basically saying she has enough information to make a decision. I don't. And obviously our staff doesn't either, because staff is recommending some follow-up questions as well. So I feel this is a good decision today to go ahead and extend the deadline and seek further clarification per your motion, Mr. President. Thank you for the opportunity to have this robust dialogue on it today.
And thank you, Vice President Fielder.
Mr.
Additional
President.
discussion, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. I wanted to encapsulate my comments earlier is to say that I do believe that the petition fails on a number of points, and that we have, I agree with Commissioner Bukacek, that we have enough information right now to reach a decision. However, as Commissioner Brown has pointed out, I think it is our obligation to allow the public to comment on things, and that if there are items of our interpretation of what the petitioner's request is that they may not, we may be misunderstanding. I think proper procedure and fairness dictates us to give them an opportunity to clarify some of these statements that they made, to see if we understand them correctly. So although I agree completely that we have enough information now, I think that fairness and the Constitution dictate that we extend the comment period and decision period until a later time. Thank you.
All right. Additional discussion. Commissioner Bukacek.
To address what Vice President Fielder just said, my constituents are never a disruption to my day, and I welcome them to contact me any way they see fit. Thank you.
Additional discussion.
Well, there you have it,
Okay.
Mr.
Additional-
President. The public is welcome to walk into Commissioner Bukacek's office, regardless of what she may be working on or other scheduling matters that she has. I just take exception to the comment, Commissioner Bukacek. We have a lot of different work we do at the agency, and when I'm working on a docket, I like to focus on that docket. It's important to be able to focus, to digest the information, and it's very difficult to do when you are generating public interaction with individual commissioners day and night, 24 hours a day for the last several days. That's been highly disruptive, and I do not appreciate it, and would ask that you would follow the proper protocol in how comments are to be registered with the commission. And President Brown has assured us there will be adequate time for people to use the proper system, and I would ask your cooperation in that out of respect to your colleagues.
Point of order, Mr. President.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
I think that the last two comments are inappropriate for this meeting, and I think that's a private consideration, not public. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments, Commissioner O'Donnell. I think both of the comments are ancillary to the fact that we have a public process for the public to comment, and I'm in agreement with Commissioner Fielder that public comment on matters that come before the commission are properly directed through the agency, such that the right to know and right to participate clauses of the Montana Constitution are properly affected, and so that our decisions are based on record evidence and not matters outside the scope of the matter considered. Additional comments? If not, we pretty much beat this to death, I think.
I have one more.
Okay, Commissioner Bukacek.
I'll be very brief. For people to bust into my office, they'd have to get past the front desk. That doesn't happen. To get emails on my email address, I can look at any time. I was looking at them up till 10 o'clock last night and from 6 o'clock this morning. So emails do not have to be a disruption. They can be looked at in a timely fashion that is convenient for the commissioners, and that's what I do.
All right. I think we're going far afield here. I'm going to call a vote on this. All those in favor of my motion is amended once to extend the public comment date. Why don't we do a roll call vote on this? Vice President Fielder. Vice President Fielder. Okay, Commissioner Pinochi.
Yes,
Oh,
I vote yes.
okay, thank you. Commissioner Pinochi,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Bukacek,
No.
and then I'm an aye. So my motion as amended once carries 4-1 vote with Commissioner Bukacek dissenting. All right, thank you, colleagues, for that robust discussion. Let's move to work session item number 2. This is docket 2024.04.048 Northwestern Energy. This is Northwestern Energy's application for interim and final approval of 2024 natural gas universal system benefits charge rate adjustment. We're here to consider issuing an interim order. I'm Mr. Fink, maybe?
That's correct, Mr. President.
I could tell you, see it from the back of your head.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you mentioned, this is in docket 2024.04.048. On March 29th, 2024, Northwestern Energy filed its annual application to adjust its natural gas universal system benefits charge rate, also known as USB. Today, we are discussing Northwestern's proposed interim rate to be effective May 1st. You should have all received the draft interim order that was distributed last week. Northwestern is requesting a USB adjustment necessary to generate approximately $3.6 million to recover their 2024 budget, less their overcollections from the 2022 and 2023 program years. The proposed modifications to the USB charge rates result in a 60.88% decrease from current USB rates. The proposed reduction will decrease the total average monthly residential bill by 0.53% or 43 cents. Staff recommends approval of the draft interim order and allow staff to make non-substantive edits. Myself and Dan is also available online, I believe. We are available for questions. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Poco, do you have anything to offer?
President Brown, Commissioners, no, Grant did great summarizing the interim order.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there a motion?
Mr. President,
Commissioner Pinochi.
to support staff recommendations. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. President.
I have Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'd like to second the motion, please.
All right, motion has been seconded. Discussion? Questions? No questions or discussion on this? All right, all those in favor of Commissioner Pinocchi's motion to issue the interim order and to allow staff to make any non-substantive changes as needed for clarity, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Fink, Mr. Poco. All right, our final work session item for the day is docket 2023.11.095. This is a commission initiated matter. This relates to Flathead Father and Son. We're here to consider issuing a notice of commission action. Looks like Ms. Wachowski, maybe?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. President, Commissioners. In your reading materials, you have a draft notice of commission action that essentially resolves the order to show cause and notice of public hearing issued on March 14th, 2024 that was directed to Flathead Father and Son. As you may recall, that order to show cause was issued because Flathead Father and Son, who do not have a Class D certificate of public convenience and necessity, had on 2 separate occasions been advertising for garbage hauling services on its website. As you may also recall, under Montana Code annotated section 69-12-106, any person or corporation advertising the transportation of garbage for compensation is considered a motor carrier, subject to regulation under the Montana Motor Carrier Act until proven otherwise. After the commission learned of the first instance of Flathead Father and Son advertising for garbage hauling services on its website, it sent Flathead Father and Son a cease and desist letter. After receiving the letter, Flathead Father and Son stopped advertising for garbage hauling services on its website for a while, but then it resumed advertising on its website once again. After the order to show cause was issued, Flathead Father and Son informed the commission the second advertisement occasion only occurred because its website designer had accidentally added the advertisement for garbage hauling services back on the business's website as part of a website update. That advertisement has since been removed. In light of that information, the hearing that was scheduled in conjunction with the order to show cause was vacated. And now staff simply recommends that Flathead Father and Son, that their website be monitored to ensure that the business does not begin advertising for garbage hauling services again. This recommendation is reflected in the draft notice of commission action found in your reading materials, and staff recommends the commission adopt that notice as its finalized notice of commission action and authorize staff to make any non-substantive changes to the notice to improve clarity and accuracy as necessary prior to its publication. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions along with Mr. Poco, who is online.
Mr. Poco, anything to offer?
President Brown, commissioners, nothing to add at this time.
All right, is there a motion? Commissioner Bukacek?
I move that we approve the draft notice of commission action as the commission's notice of commission action to monitor the website further and allow staff to make any non-substantive edits required for clarity.
All right, I'll second. Is there a discussion?
Mr. President.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes, thank you. In order, just to comment on the case that was just stated there, it said to monitor to make sure that they never again advertise for services. I think that should be absent approval, application approval by the Public Service Commission. We're not prohibiting them forever for engaging in this field. Thank you.
Additional discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Vice President Fielder.
I'd just like clarification on the motion. Is the motion to adopt the staff recommendation on this?
Commissioner Bukacek, can you clarify? That's my understanding, but Commissioner, it's your motion.
The action is to monitor the website.
Okay,
So
I
That's
don't
it,
understand. I
correct?
don't know. The staff recommendation is to approve the draft notice of commission action.
And the substance of that is to monitor the website. Is that correct? Laura Wachowski?
Mr. President, Commissioner Bukacek, the substance is yes, but staff's recommendation is that the commission adopt the draft notice of commission action that it has as reading materials as its final notice of commission action.
Yes, thank you.
So Vice President Fielder, you make a good point here, but I think holistically, that's the motion is to adopt the staff recommendation. Additional discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Bukacek's motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Motion is adopted. That concludes our work session items for the day. And I would just note for the public watching, our next commission business meeting will be Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at the usual time of 9:30 a.m. Seeing no further business to come before the commission today, we will adjourn today's meeting. Thank you, colleagues.